Ethan's tape wasn't the only one. Ethan's tape wasn't the only one. Rourke discovered this chilling fact just 3 days after reopening the case. He was still trying to convince himself that what he'd seen was just a trick of the mind, a product of exhaustion, stress, or his memory playing cruel games with him. He desperately wanted to believe that. He really did. But the truth has a funny way of refusing to stay buried. It always finds a way to surface, especially the kind of truth no one wants to face. The second envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning. Unlike the first one, this package was plain. There was no symbol, no name, no strange identification. It was just a small, lightweight mailer with a single videotape inside. And this time, the tape wasn't blank. It had a label. Written in shaky blue ink, as if the hand holding the pen was trembling with fear, were 5 simple words. Do not watch after midnight. Rourke swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. He repeated the phrase aloud, his voice barely a whisper. It was impossible not to connect it to the disturbing pattern of the case he was investigating. But something else snagged his attention, sending a fresh wave of dread through him. The label had the number 7 on it, not 13. That single digit changed everything. If there was a tape 13 and now a tape 7, then this wasn't an isolated random event. It was a set, a collection, a sequence. And someone, or something, was sending these recordings directly to him. Curiosity, as it so often does, began to overpower his fear. It's a common trait in people who carry the weight of a mystery for too long. He had to know. He prepared the room, dimming the lights until only a faint glow remained. With a deep breath, he inserted the tape into the old VCR and pressed play. The screen flickered to life with the same familiar static, that chaotic snowstorm of noise and interference. But the image that slowly emerged from the static wasn't the narrow corridor from the first tape. This was a garage. A damp, forgotten garage with puddles of water on the floor, reflecting the weak light of a single bulb hanging from an exposed wire. The concrete was old and cracked, and rust stains bled down the walls like dried tears. The entire place looked like it had been abandoned for decades. The camera was positioned in a corner, low to the ground, as if it had been placed there in a hurry. For long, agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Only the constant low buzzing of the flickering light filled the silence. Rourke, growing impatient, fast-forwarded a few seconds, then a few minutes. He was about to give up when suddenly, the light flickered violently, and there it was, the same figure. Standing motionless in the center of the garage, watching the camera. It seemed even closer than in the previous recording, as if it were trapped in that claustrophobic space. But something was different this time. The face, while still obscured, seemed more defined, more visible. Not enough to make out clear features, but just enough to notice that the shadow surrounding it was thicker, darker, almost alive. Rourke reached for the remote and cautiously turned the volume up from 0. The sound hit him instantly. It wasn't the faint whispers from before. This was a slow, rhythmic dragging. The unmistakable sound of fingernails, or maybe just fingers, scraping across rough concrete. The horrifying part was that the sound wasn't coming from the figure. It was coming from somewhere just outside the camera's view. Something was moving in the darkness behind it. Then, the bulb flickered again. For the briefest of moments, so fast it was nearly imperceptible, a second figure appeared in the top corner of the screen. It was folded impossibly against the ceiling, its arms stretched out long and thin, its face turned downward. Rourke slammed the pause button. His heart was pounding against his ribs. He rewound the tape, his hand shaking. He watched the scene again. The figure on the ceiling was gone. He played it back 3 more times, frame by frame. It never reappeared. But he knew what he had seen. He was certain of it. It felt like the tape was reacting not just to the person watching it, but now it was reacting to the environment it was being played in. This wasn't a normal recording. It wasn't even a recording in the traditional sense of the word. The tape was interacting with him. When the image returned to the wide shot of the garage, something else had changed. The main figure was gone. The space where it had been standing just moments before was now completely empty. A cold knot twisted in Rourke's stomach. What he saw next would be burned into his memory forever. In the back of the room, behind a pile of old, rusted boxes, a shadow moved. It was slow, dragging itself along the wall as if it were following someone, or something. But the camera hadn't moved. The camera was fixed in place, which could only mean one thing. That thing wasn't following someone inside the recording. It was following the viewer. It was following him. That was the moment Rourke made the decision that would change the course of the investigation and his life forever. He couldn't handle this alone. Not when the tapes were increasing, not only in number, but in sheer intensity. He needed help. He needed specialists. He needed people who spoke the same strange, terrifying language as the unexplainable. That was how Archive 13 was born. It started as a small, clandestine group of independent investigators. They met in secret, gathering to analyze every tape, every symbol, every scrap of information that could reveal the origin of this horrifying phenomenon. And they soon discovered that Rourke wasn't the only one receiving tapes. They were appearing in other states, in other cities, with different numbers on their labels. Each tape showed a different environment, a dusty attic, an empty school hallway, a flooded basement. But they all showed the same figure, motionless, appearing a little closer each time, a little clearer each time, more conscious of being watched each time. Archive 13 gathered every recording they could find and tried to establish a pattern. In that cramped, dimly lit room, filled with stacks of old TVs all showing static, they found their first major clue. The tapes only displayed their anomalous behavior at exactly midnight. Before midnight, they were just creepy, disturbing footage. After midnight, pure, unwatchable static. But at midnight, the signal returned. At midnight, the figure appeared. At midnight, the recording felt alive. And the most terrifying part wasn't even that. It was the fact that, in every documented case, someone disappeared after watching the tapes. It was always someone different. Always someone who saw the figure too close. Always someone who heard the whisper. When Archive 13 compiled all the reports, a final, undeniable pattern emerged. A pattern that was impossible to ignore. The figure only appears to those who have already been seen. No one watches these tapes by accident. No one finds these recordings without a purpose. The tape finds you. And once it does, there is no way back. For weeks, Archive 13 dedicated itself to what seemed like a simple, logical task: discovering the origin of the transmission. After all, every signal has to come from somewhere. Every broadcast needs a sender. Every frequency has a point of origin. That's what everyone believed. Until they discovered that Channel 13 didn't exist. Not officially. Not technically. Not in any public or private database they could access. Every country has a catalog of regulated frequencies for television, radio, and emergency communications. Archive 13 scoured them all. Every document, every registry, and there was no mention of a Channel 13 in any of the states where the tapes had appeared. Even worse, some of the people who claimed to have watched the broadcast didn't even own TVs capable of receiving that channel. And yet, they all described the exact same thing: the narrow corridor, the blinding white light at the end, the motionless figure, the 000 mark on the clock, and that chilling, inescapable feeling of being watched. Archive 13 then moved to a more technical phase. They hooked up sophisticated scanning equipment, directional antennas, and computers specialized in frequency analysis. And that's when they found something truly impossible. The signal did appear, but only for 1 second. And always at exactly midnight, not a millisecond more or less. What made the phenomenon even more disturbing was where the signal came from. It wasn't broadcast from towers, satellites, or any known relay sources. It came from what technicians call dead zones, geographical areas with no detectable electromagnetic activity. Abandoned lots, empty warehouses, decommissioned government facilities. Some of these places had been closed and sealed for decades. But when the clock struck midnight, the signal emerged out of nowhere, a single, powerful pulse. And then it vanished completely. The team tried to pinpoint the origin more precisely, but every attempt failed. It was as if the transmission was moving, always staying one step ahead of them. Sometimes it would appear in one part of a city, other times it would pop up in a completely different location, as if someone was deliberately jumping the frequency to avoid being traced. Until one night, Archive 13's audio technician, a man named Marcus Holden, detected something new. Buried deep within the static was a noise that repeated sequentially. It wasn't random interference. It was a pattern. Marcus isolated the sound, filtered out the noise, and sped up the audio. The result was a rhythmic sequence, almost like a series of knocks. 7 knocks, a short pause, 13 knocks, a long pause, and then the same phrase, repeated over and over, distorted as if it were coming from a great distance. "He has already seen you." Marcus went pale. He showed the result to the group. And while everyone was trying to process this terrifying discovery, something even stranger happened. The computer froze. The lights in the room flickered wildly, and one of the monitors displayed, for less than half a second, the image from the tapes. The corridor. And the figure was there. Close. Much, much closer than in any of the previous recordings. When the screen returned to normal, Archive 13 fell completely silent. They realized the problem wasn't where the signal came from, it was where it was going. That transmission wasn't seeking coverage, it was seeking targets. And the targets were always those who had already seen the channel, those who tried to understand it, to decode it, to study it. Slowly, Rourke began to form a hypothesis that no one in the room wanted to hear. "What if the channel isn't from here?" he asked, his gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of his team. Marcus tried to laugh it off, but the sound caught in his throat. Where else would it be from? Rourke's answer was quiet, but it landed with the weight of a tombstone. "From wherever things come that try to watch us without being seen." No one dared to finish the thought, but everyone in that room knew exactly what he meant. Channel 13 wasn't a clandestine station. It wasn't a pirate broadcast. It wasn't some kind of technical anomaly. It was a contact point, a fracture, a breach between our world and another. And every time someone watched the tapes, that breach opened just a little bit wider. That same night, one of the members of Archive 13 disappeared. Marcus Holden, the only one who had heard the knocking pattern. Police found his car parked near one of the dead zones. The doors were wide open. The headlights were still on. And sitting on the passenger seat was a single videotape. The label was handwritten. It had a number on it, 0. And on the back, in letters that were almost scratched off, was a final, horrifying message. "He didn't see me first." Marcus's tape wasn't like the others. It felt heavier, warmer to the touch, as if it had just come out of a machine that had been running minutes earlier. Rourke held the object carefully, but immediately sensed something was wrong. The tape felt alive, vibrating with an almost imperceptible hum. The entirety of Archive 13 gathered that night. No one spoke much. No one needed to. They all felt the same thing. This tape was different. This tape was dangerous. The label showed the number 0, and that alone was enough to upend everything they thought they knew. If a tape 0 existed, then their entire timeline was incomplete. It meant there was a beginning, a moment prior to tape 13, to tape 7, to any of the others. And whatever was on this recording had been important enough to be left beside Marcus' abandoned car. Rourke placed the tape into the VCR. For a moment, no one breathed. When he pressed play, the screen stayed black longer than usual. No static, no noise, just silence, absolute silence. And then a voice, low, scratchy, distant. "You shouldn't be here." The members of Archive 13 exchanged looks. Nothing like this had ever happened. None of the recordings had human voices. None had audio that wasn't static, interference, or environmental noise. When the image finally appeared, it wasn't a corridor. It wasn't a garage. It wasn't any known place. It was too dark, too black, as if the camera were pointed into a space devoid of light. Until after a few seconds, something moved. A shape, a breath, and then an eye. It appeared suddenly, massive, filling half the screen, pressed against the lens from the other side. A human eye, opened too, far too red. Rourke stepped back. Two members of the team shot out of their seats at the same time. The image felt too close, too real. This wasn't like the other recordings. It felt aware. The voice returned, clearer now. He wasn't the first. The camera shook, the image flickered, and then the darkness unfolded. Like a curtain being pulled aside, on the other side, a place, an impossible space. Long, narrow walls, made of something like aged concrete, but trembling slightly, as if they were breathing. The floor looked wet, reflecting lights that didn't exist. The camera moved forward on its own. No footsteps, no hands holding it. "This isn't a recording," someone whispered, and it wasn't. Because at one point, something crossed the camera's path. Ethan Crowell. Or what was left of him. The body was bent in an unnatural way, as if his bones were too flexible. His eyes were open, fixed, but saw nothing. The skin was grayish, the mouth slightly open, something dark trickling from one corner. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply existed there as part of that place. The camera passed right by him. It didn't recognize him, didn't react. Ethan was simply another piece of it. Then came the part no one in Archive 13 would ever forget. The figure, the same from every tape, but now, for the first time, fully visible, too tall, too thin. The skin, if it could be called that, looked like condensed shadow, like smoke forced into a solid shape. Its arms were long, its fingers dragging across the floor, the head tilted forward. That same gesture all of them had seen before. But now, the face was exposed. There were no eyes, no mouth, no nose, only a pulsing void, as if something inside were trying to form itself. The creature approached the camera, slowly, deliberately. Then, when it grew close enough for the screen to drown in that darkness, the voice returned a third time, clearer than ever. "You are opening me." The image collapsed into violent static. The tape skipped several frames on its own. The video seemed to struggle against something, or someone, until suddenly, the image came back for one final second. The figure was on the other side of the lens, pressed directly against the camera, pressed directly against the camera. And then, for the first time, it moved. A motion too fast, directed forward, as if it had lunged through the screen. The VCR erupted in sparks. The lights in Archive 13's room went out simultaneously. Someone screamed, another fell backward in their chair. When everything returned to normal, the television was black. The tape was still inside the machine, but the VCR's display showed something impossible. From that day on, Archive 13 stopped being just an investigation group. It became something else, a group of survivors. Because everyone there, everyone who had seen Tape 0, began to hear things. To see silhouettes, to notice static flickering on televisions that were turned off. And all of them, without exception, began having the same dream. The corridor, the figure, and a phrase repeated without end. "He wasn't the first, but you will be the last."